to Beyond the Struggle. My name is Jason Blackledge. I'm here with Jeff Monroe. We're here to talk today about trust, rebuilding trust in the family after we kind of start this journey into recovery. So yeah, man, what are some of your experiences in that?
Well, when it comes to rebuilding trust after addiction with the family, I always think about my first few weeks right before trying to seek out treatment. It was a shit show.
Yeah.
You know, I can remember like one of the biggest things for me is the trust that I now have with like my dad and the rest of my family. I mean, look, before I went in, me and you have shared these stories
Yeah.
before, bruh, where we kind of talked about some of the things we did to our families prior to, getting sober and doing things for them. Like remember that story I told you about having my dad at like my apartment complex
Yeah,
right
yeah,
before right before
yeah.
I went in. I had my dad right at my apartment complex telling him that my neighbors were spying on me,
Mm-hmm.
you know, needing like my dad to come over there and just justify my thoughts, my paranoia cuz I
Your
look,
substance-induced
yeah,
paranoia, is that what
my
we're talking
yeah,
about?
because you know all this was true to me.
Mm-hmm.
I believed it all. And I had my dad out there at my apartment complex and I was had him out there pointing holes in the bricks of my apartment
Yeah.
complex and saying, "Look, you see this right here? This is how they're seeing what I'm doing." And convinced my dad was part of it. You know,
That he
um,
was a part of that him and
he
the
was, yeah,
neighbors
that they
had a
were
whole
all a
I got
part
you.
of
Okay.
all this, right?
Yeah.
And him walking into my apartment complex, and I got electrical tape all over the holes in the
Yeah.
ceiling and stuff like that, and for him to see that side of me, for me to have put my dad through that
Yeah.
is just thinking about it, is just the insanity. When I talk about those things to my dad these days, we can laugh about
Yeah.
it. You know?
How long did that take though, where it was something that
Well,
you
I
could
mean,
laugh about with him?
here's the deal. Building trust with your family is not an overnight matter.
Oh, certainly.
For me, it took years.
Yeah.
Because there had been so much break of trust with them. Um, stealing from them in the house and them taking the keys and me not being welcomed at the house or anything like that. You know, I one of the things that I did, and we've talked about this whenever I got sober, about 6 months sober. Lord knows I needed the help,
Yeah.
but my dad was such an enabling person, and my mother too. That he would have given me anything begrudgingly,
Yeah.
but um, to go back to 6 months sober, I was in sober living, and I told him, I'd finally gotten a job, I was making a little bit of money, and I called him and I told him, I said, "Look, from this point on, right, I'm gonna need you not to give me anything."
So for you kind of starting with the I'm gonna start taking care of myself financially.
Yeah, financially, and him not bailing me out
Yeah.
for anything. I said, "Look,
Or everything.
yeah,
Yeah.
everything."
Like, yeah.
Because I told him, I said, "Look,
Yeah.
man, even if I call you and I say I need something from you, I want you to remind me of this conversation."
Don't give it to me.
And so from 6 months sober, believe it or not, till 10 years later, I
Yeah.
just made 10 years in January.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And from that day forward, I haven't had to ask him for anything.
Hmm.
Right now, he has openly wanted to give me things. Like
Yeah.
never used to do that before. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I think the difference is because
Yeah.
now he probably doesn't feel like he has to,
Right.
you know?
Well, and I think I see that a lot with like your dad. Mine and your stories are
Mhm.
very similar when it comes to like our fathers, and our families, and that's kind of how we were able to really relate with one another, and what they did to provide for us.
Yeah.
Well, we used them for what they had, right? And so now the trust factor is, look, I think it took like a good 2 years for them to really, truly say, okay, this isn't him just, going out and getting some help because we're asking him to. He's done this for himself.
Yeah, making some actual changes
Yeah.
in life.
And
Yeah.
not back and forth
Mhm.
like many, many years
Yeah.
we had done before. And so now it's, as there's a relationship that we have, it's more of we have a really good friendship.
Yeah.
I think one of my biggest regrets is that my mother didn't get to benefit from my sobriety.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That she didn't get the best of me.
Yeah.
She's in a nursing home, but she didn't get the best version of me that she deserved.
Yeah.
But I can show up these days. I can show up to the nursing home, and I can be the best version of myself.
I think for me, what I'm hearing you say is time.
Yeah.
I was the guy that went in and out, in and out, in and out of treatment. So even at 6 months, for them, they were so accustomed to that. The family was so accustomed to seeing Jason 6 months in, and that was a difficult thing, for me, was to be able to wait, to be patient enough to wait for the time that it was going to take. Talking to you, about some of the stuff that we've talked about is I told you, I had gone to treatment a lot, 20 times plus, right? And going to treatment and finishing treatment was so important to me to start this recovery journey this time, because I needed to start doing what I said I would do. I left that. I went to this outpatient stuff for got 13th, 14th time.
Yeah, right.
I probably did IOP with Woodlake alone
Yeah.
8 times. They were probably tired of seeing me over there. And
Can't confirm or deny that I saw you.
Well, I've been told now, so don't worry. It's been confirmed.
Yeah, right.
But it's like the yes, I learned a ton from it. It was very, very beneficial to me. But again, one of the big things was that, like, old Jason doesn't do what he says he's going to do. And if I couldn't even finish this IOP OP thing that I started, it was just another thing for them to say, here he goes, and it gets me back doing Jason what he wants to do. So I think that was, but being patient, man, I think that's a big thing for us, for people starting recovery, is to be patient with, the time it takes. I've heard somebody, a coworker say, if it takes me 10 years to walk into the woods, how long does it take me to walk out of it?
Yeah.
This, story about, I guess, trust with dad and that kind of stuff is, because it was years ago. It was I was maybe sober about 2 years, and Spanish Town Parade, or this, Mardi Gras stuff going on, which was just this past weekend, right?
Yeah, I'll never go back to Spanish.
Yeah, you didn't enjoy that, huh? I'm not a parade guy myself.
Start to really realize how old you are when you're
yeah.
in the sun for 3.5 hours directly.
Yeah, and if there's not an LSU football game involved, I'm
Right,
good,
right.
man. But I talked to some people that in recovery. I knew me and my dad, we were going to go make this delivery. My dad was doing this delivery for a Spanish Town Parade, dropping food, that kind of stuff off, and I knew we were going to be alone, right? This was a time for us to, and I was like, man, I've got to have this conversation with my dad, man. It's time to own some of my stuff,
Right.
like actually own it, say it out loud to him. Like, we both knew, he knew what I did, I knew what I did, but to be, man enough to sit down with him and say, hey, I did this.
Yeah.
I shortened it, the trip was only 20 minutes. So, yeah, it's like,
Everything you've done would have taken a lot longer than
I need
that.
to pick the bullet points, and, and it was a part of the recovery process, right? This is a part of it. Go make right my wrongs. And God, like, I couldn't even imagine, you talked about it earlier, how much even just financially, Dad has done for me, and you said you relate to that. And I was going to, I had this plan in place, man, and I'm gonna make a payment plan with him, right? I'm gonna give him $200 a month for the rest of his life.
Mm-hmm.
That was the plan.
Yeah.
That was
For the rest of his life.
like until he was gone. That might, and I still
Yeah.
don't know that I would have scratched the surface. And we had the conversation, man, and he told me, he said, I don't want your money. I tried again. I had some money. He tried. I don't want your
Mm-hmm.
money. Tried it again. I don't want your money. And he told me what he did want, and I said, I think I can do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I heard him say some.
What did he tell you he wanted?
Well, he said, I want you to keep doing what you're doing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but he also said, I want you to take care of your family.
Mm-hmm.
But hours later, when I had more time to sit and reflect on that conversation and had the ability to talk to some other guys that I really trusted, what I believe he was really saying to me was that he was tired of taking care of my family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because every time I messed up, every time I went to jail or treatment or here or there, or even just on the streets, man, he had to step up and take care of my family.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so when he said, I want you to take care of your family, what I heard was, stop, I don't want to anymore.
Yeah, right. Well, and it's like, what does that mean to you? What does that mean for me to now have to take care of my family?
Be responsible, yeah.
Be responsible. That's the trust part in itself. Like, and that's what I was going to ask you. Like, with that being said, how did you start to rebuild trust?
Well, and I want to finish the story. Let me say this. So, and then I'll answer your question because it's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
But I go into this conversation in this day to work this part of this recovery process and start a payment plan with him. Right? We're on this delivery, but I end up leaving. Long story short, I don't want your money, and he paid me.
Yeah.
So I somehow got paid.
So you went to making amends, financially,
Yep.
then he pays you.
Somehow, he
Wow.
says no, and I walked away from this with cash in my pocket somehow. But man, I think that for me, if I could look, I know this is going to be a very vague response,
Mm-hmm.
but going into what he said, take care of your family, is I started early on being responsible. And early on, let's talk about early on in my recovery.
Mm-hmm.
My family didn't want much to do with me. I was in sober living, right? But my responsibilities were, I had a little part-time job, cleaning bathrooms for a lady.
Mm-hmm.
So I showed up because that was my responsibility for that. I went to my meetings I was supposed to go to for IOP, OP, for treatment.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to my A meet. I said I would do those things, and I did it.
Yeah.
And starting out, it was just that. Because, and I know you and I are similar, and most people in recovery are similar to this. I don't know how to do what I say I'm going to do. Right? But when people saw me start actually doing the stuff I said I would do, I believed in that. Like you were talking about, yours, and I think both of ours took years.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you have, for me, because I'm a tad bit older than you, we're not going to say how much older, when you have 20 plus something years of, mental abuse with your family, stealing, all these different things, it stuff doesn't happen overnight, right? And so I see a lot of people kind of come in to recovery and they get upset because mom and dad don't want them doing this or don't believe it. I was like, bro, think about all what you've done,
and how crazy it is to be mad about that.
Yeah, how crazy it is to be mad, and these things take time, right? And for me, like you said, the rebuilding of trust, with family, and I'm talking not even with dad, I'm talking the whole family, because our addictions are like a ripple effect that affect so many people that we don't even realize, right? And then we find out later down the road when they come to us, hey, do you remember that time that and of course I don't remember, right? But I don't think that you're lying to me at all, and so the only thing that I can do is, let them know that, I was wrong for that situation, how can I make it right? In most cases are, right? Like, well, you keep doing what you're doing, and which is the hardest thing, right?
Because then I actually have to keep doing it.
Right.
right?
And so like your dad did with you, so did mine and many other family members. You just keep doing what you're doing. Well, keep doing what you're doing for me means to come into town because they live in Monroe and
Hmm.
live off in different places, to show up and work in the yard.
Yeah,
Do like things
yeah,
like that. Help him go to the hunting camp if he wants me to go to the hunting or somewhere. Help him. You know, set up a deer stand, whatever the case. Like the stuff that I don't want to do are the things that I need to do the most.
yeah,
To kind of rebuild that trust and you know on the financial side of things, right? It felt so good for me to not to have to um ask his favor in something. He just gladly will help. When I bought my house, um he was, and I had some down payment that
hmm,
I didn't ask him for anything. What he said to me was like, "This is your money.
yeah,
This is when Jeff gets out of his shit money.
yeah, yeah,
This is
yeah,
his
yeah, yeah, yeah.
like he held some money
Hmm.
back because he knew that had he given me anything like in active addiction or anything, it would be gone.
Yeah, you couldn't be trusted with
So
it. We're
it
talking
took
about the
5
trust.
years for this,
Hmm.
this this Jeff fund, so to speak, that is my money that he'd set aside for all these
Yeah,
years for things like that that he was readily and happily. I even tried to say no, I don't want any of that. He's like, it's yours.
yeah.
Like this is your money. You're not understanding what I'm saying.
So at this point, he's instead of you convincing him to give you money,
Yeah, he's
he's
trying to
convincing
convince me,
you
right?
to
Kind of like
take
your dad.
your
Yeah,
money. Like
yeah,
yeah, it's it's wild, man. It's crazy today. Um, it's a blessing, man. There's a lot of
absolutely.
gratitude when you see these relationships get built, and I think that like, man, I, it would be real easy if there was an outline on how to
Hmm.
rebuild trust, right? Have you heard how does the saying go, man? The older person in the room might know the saying better, but the it's trust is one of the easiest things to lose, but one of the hardest things to regain.
Hmm.
Um,
Were you saying the oldest person in the room? You were saying I might
yeah,
be able to
man.
say it a little
Yeah,
bit
yeah.
better.
You might know it a little better. Just I thought we had already. I wanted to make
You
sure.
were
I know you
trying
had
to
talked about it.
reestablish
Yeah,
that,
just
right?
to make
Okay.
sure.
Thank you.
I think that's the hardest part, but that's especially early on what we have to do, man, is be patient.
Yeah.
Show up and be patient. Um, and not like you said. You made a great point. Is like how angry do we get when people
Right.
don't? Oh, I went to treatment for 30 days and I'm in
Hmm.
sober living, and
Yeah.
you're not gonna give me keys back to your house, or you don't
Right.
want me back home, or you don't want. That was with me. Is like my she wasn't my wife at the time, but she's my wife now.
Hmm.
But you know I had children, we had a family, and they wanted nothing to do with me.
Hmm.
And it's like this last time, I didn't force myself back in that position.
Yeah.
I was willing to
I
earn
remember.
that. I was willing to earn it back, man. If I had the opportunity,
Yeah.
it might not even happen. But it was important for me also to, I got with a group of guys that really helped me through
Hmm.
this. And rebuild this trust and start this stuff. But patience, man, I really do. I think that, if I could say do the work, show up, do what I say I'm going to do, right? Whether it's in a recovery program, you talked about
Hmm.
if I say I'm going to show up and help you with the
Yeah.
yard, if I
Yeah,
do this,
man.
I gotta do that. I gotta show up and I gotta do that over and over and over again.
Yeah, and and it's with everybody.
Yeah.
Because trust isn't just with the family; it's trust in our jobs, being somebody that's dependable. That
Hmm.
that all goes together with rebuilding trust, and it is also the ripple effect, right? Once you start to regain trust with your family and your friends and your job, so people start to see
Yeah.
that like, and they say, yeah, that's a real dependable dude.
Yeah, that's wild that people think we're dependable.
That think you're
Right.
dependable.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Yeah. So for sure, man. But I think we just have to continue to show up in that
Yeah.
aspect, right? And that's the person I want to. That's the difference, right? That's the person I want to continue to be on a daily basis. And I think if I can show up and I can show people uh, that I can be trusted and people can see those things, it starts to kind of fill out for people that in my hometown seeing these things, me going back and seeing the difference in the person I am today to the person that they knew, right? Versus the person that they see.
Yeah.
It says a lot, right? Our experiences can help other people in that area as well.
Yeah, I think, man, to kind of end it up, I'm gonna, it's like if I want to be trusted by people,
Mm-hmm.
I have to be a trustworthy person.
Yep.
And that was not something that I knew how to do.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, man, putting that work in and doing that thing and then be patient. I think for all my times previous to that, I wanted results right then and right now,
Mm-hmm.
and didn't have probably didn't have the ability to be patient.
Right.
And today it's be patient. And it sounds simple, man, but if I want people to trust me, I've got to do trustworthy things.
That's right. Well said, sir.
Thanks for joining us on Beyond the Struggle. We appreciate you being here with us, and we'll catch you next time on the next episode.